the auto sector, which I think has been quite badly affected by the lockdown. We will obviously discuss that and a lot of other things. There's Mr. Chawla, who's editorial director of the New Indian Express, someone who's been in journalism for longer than I think all of us put together have been in our respective industries. So I just want to introduce the panel quickly before I address a couple of introductory questions. There's Mr. Martin Schwenk, who's MD and CEO of Mercedes Benz India, Mr. Shashank Srivastav, Sales and Marketing Head, Maruti Suzuki, and Mr. Puneet Anand, Group Head, Corporate Affairs, Hyundai Motor India. So as you can see, quite a representative panel. Mr. Schwenk, may I take the liberty of asking you first, since you're our guest here, how badly or how adversely has the industry been hit during this particular lockdown by the coronavirus, and especially the luxury car segment?
Well, I think it's not a big surprise that the impact is massive. Yeah, we basically wipe out an entire 3 months, a quarter of sales altogether. Relatively unexpected when we stopped middle of March, and now slowly but surely coming back. I mean, the impact is massive, and but I think we can go through that. The question is how quickly and how rapidly will be the recovery, and how stable will the further pandemic situation develop.
Right. Mr. Srivastav, may I ask, as the common man's car manufacturer, Maruti really, the Maruti sales are sort of an indication of how well or badly the economy is doing. So what are you doing to ensure that manufacturing gets up to speed as quickly as possible? And of course, that there's demand for cars.
So I think, like every other manufacturer, we also have been badly affected by this lockdown, COVID lockdown. Remember, it's coming at the back of last year's sale, which was also pretty bad compared with the previous year. Last year itself was down about 18% in the industry. So, but the difference this time is that the entire chain of both supply as well as production seems to have been affected. We also had a very bad quarter so far, in the sense that April was a zero, which is incredible. We never thought it would happen like that. But,
sorry, what was low? We couldn't hear that.
April sale was like retail was zero because the whole country was in the lockdown.
Zero. You didn't sell a single car, right?
Absolutely, and it's true for the entire industry, not just Maruti. May was we started getting those green shoots a little bit because we started opening showrooms. In June, of course, it's been much better, although it's less than the last year's numbers, but definitely I can see that there is a good bounce back, almost 85% of the last year's level. So the difference between a sale where an environment where there is no sale, and today is that today we are also grappling with supply chain and production.
Right.
So those are the challenges which we are facing. Going forward, the question when you said what we are doing, obviously we have to look at how to make consumers more confident about coming to dealerships or even taking vehicles. Right. And that's what we are trying to do, both on the front of safety, of personal safety in terms of the health, and also increased digitalization, which people are preferring. We would also look at because we have this feedback from consumers that they are very concerned with the health and safety.
Yes.
So we have to make sure that all our dealerships have those SOPs in place, which gives this confidence to consumer. Second, consumers have indicated that they want more digital interface with our dealers. So that is something which we are also working. We have been working for some years now, and we will be obviously accelerating that process. And third is the finance availability, which we are trying to tailor-made financial schemes which are personalized to the requirements of the consumers. So we will discuss more of it as we go along in the discussion.
Certainly. Mr. Anand, may I put this question to you? Is there a possibility of an opportunity in this adversity, in the sense that there is a fear of public transport, there is a fear of crowding. Is there a possibility that there may be an increase in demand for private vehicles?
So first of all, good afternoon, everybody. It's a great panel to talk to. Yes, Kaveri, you are right. Over the last couple of months, what we have seen is that the kind of, thought and the attitude and the behaviors which have changed in the customers, especially in the automobile industry, there is a tendency for the people to shift to personal mobility.
Right.
And rightly said so, because when we are looking at social distancing, when we are looking at personal health and hygiene, I think shared mobility is something which probably will take a little backstage, and we will see some jump happening as far as the personal mobility space is concerned. Largely when we talk of India, where the volumes of small cars are obviously one of the highest as far as the segment is concerned, I think it is also an opportunity for the manufacturers, especially who are very strong in the small and the mid cars, to really go out and exercise their strength as far as the availability of cars at a lower end of the profile are concerned. And I think rightly mentioned that once people are getting the advantage of these small cars, they will also try to own most of them. And with this ownership, I would definitely feel that the sales will increase, the volumes will increase. Obviously, as Mr. Martin and Mr. Shashank has rightly put, that yes, it's a challenging situation. We have already seen the network as well as the volumes eroding over the last couple of months, also especially even in the 2019 to say so. But yes, these are some of the softer points which we see, some better areas which we see going forward. But we also must not forget, not only in terms of volumes, I think overall, if I see, the industry itself has changed, a big change in the human attitude and the behavior going forward. So today, a customer who's educated, obviously a car customer is much, much educated than any other, consumer product.
Right.
These are the customers who would be looking at those manufacturers who would be able to solve problems for them. Those manufacturers would be focusing on, green offshoots of economy, and
Right.
those manufacturers who will be showcasing the human aspect of life as far as the car ownership is concerned. And I think that's where we all as a manufacturer would also need to showcase our affection, showcase our real conscious towards the overall development of the society. And I think that's the big change which I'll see going forward, that we will be able to define a new segment, a new thought process in the customers going forward, where health, hygiene, safety, and social, friendship will also take a very big stage. So I think these are some of the thoughts which are coming over the last couple of months as we go forward, and that's where progress for humanity would be one of the biggest, buzzword which will help us to revive the economy and the auto industry.
I will go back to macro picture, because coming back to the individual cases, we'll deal with them a little later. Looking at the figures which are available in the public domain, India is perhaps the fourth largest auto market in the world.
Yeah.
That is what I have heard. Is that correct? And it is the sixth largest manufacturing automobiles in the world as well. But when it comes to passenger cars and it comes to passenger vehicles, it accounts for just 6% of the total global market. It's such a small market. And looking at the production progress over the years, it seems we have lost out. Because our target was, which I saw on the website, the target was India would be producing about 20 million automobiles by 2020. The figure is almost 13 or 14 million. So its demand is not going as fast as should have been. It grew by 12%, 13%. Your profitability has gone up. But India, which was supposed to be the largest market in terms of automobile, is not growing. What could be the reason for this, that your target of 20 million units to be produced has not been able to be met? Because I'll ask this question to Shashank. Shashank is like Amul India, Amul India, and this is India travel karta hai Maruti, but Maruti India. So Maruti is also 80-70% of the market. So what do you think? Why the market is not growing as fast as you all are as expected to grow it?
Yeah, so I think your question relates to the possible upside, and the upside is usually talked about because the car penetration of in our country is only about 24 or 25 cars per thousand, whereas in countries like Germany or in Japan or US, it's probably upward of 700. So I think there is a lot of upside. On the other hand, India is a developing economy. So it's our GDP per capita is very small compared with Europe or US or other developed countries. I can talk only about cars, passenger vehicles.
Yeah, you
It has
can talk
grown
about.
reasonably well in the past. Yeah. So let me talk about passenger vehicles.
Yeah,
Passenger, I feel, has grown tremendously, actually. If you look at CAGRs from 2000 to 2020, or you look at CAGRs from 2005 or 2010, CAGRs are upwards of 7 to 8.2%, which is pretty good, I would say. And remember, our market was just about 2 million or so, not so many years back, about maybe about 6 years back or 7 years back. So today it is close to 3 million. In fact, we exceeded 3 million the year before last. So I think the growth has been there, but it's very closely related, of course, internationally and historically the GDP. And the correlation factor is actually upward of 0.983, which means that our story is actually related to the story of our economy.
I'll go back to Puneet because Puneet is also second largest. They are selling the small cars also because I'll ask him because in 2000 and also you have spoken about the contraction of demand in 2019 itself. Corona is an additional factor which is coming in.
Yeah.
Whether it will pick up at that level or not, no. 2019 was no reason for going down. It was global impact or whatever. Car pickup was going down, as you must have seen the figures yourself. So what I am trying to ask, Puneet, can you answer this question? That with $2,500 per capita income, our cars, can people pick up more cars? Earlier, what was the middle class was growing, every family was getting one car each. And now will that trend continue in the coming period, whether they will have, one family will have one car for every each member, which was happening earlier?
Yeah. So I think, Mr. Chawla, I would like to respond, and I would like to first thank also Mr. Shashank for bringing the perspective very well. Now, you're absolutely right. 2019, we did see, a drop in the market. We see the drop in the volume. But we also must, I would like to impress once again that India is one country where the penetration of the car per 1,000 people is around 23, 24. Now, I look at USA, which is one of the most developed economies as far as the car industry is concerned. There, the penetration is close to 850 cars per 1,000 park. So the kind of potential which we have seen in India, and rightly said so, in the last couple of years, we have grown from hardly a million or 2 million to a volume of almost 2.3 million, 3.3 million. In fact, 3.34 lakhs was the volume which we did in 2018. Yes, 2019, because of various macroeconomic factors, it was the political situation, it was some of the financial offshoots which happened way back in 2017. All those things, and also some of the financial challenges which we see, because the automobile is basically a very large sector which is dependent upon the economy and the finance sector. Whether it is the dealer finance, which takes care of the inventory funding, or whether it is the consumer finance, which is more of the retail funding, we did see some pressure coming out of various NPAs and some bank challenges, which all of us are aware of. And yes, India was not, 70% of the cars sold in India are all financed. So yes, 2019, we did see drop in the volumes. And we are all very confident that going forward, 2020 will bring very good shoots. In fact, January, February months had been little better. But yeah, this is a global phenomena. The pandemic, which happened now in the month of March, going forward, has really changed the mindset of the people. We had a very, very severe, in fact, we say one of the strictest lockdowns to happen in the world was the happen which is in India. The manufacturing processes were shut down, all the logistics operation was shut down. So because of this, yes, we did see, and I think Mr. Shashank mentioned that April was the only month in my own history I had not seen even a single car being retailed.
Single car being sold. Correct, that's right.
Phenomena which we have seen in our whole life. How could anybody think that there will be a month in the country of India where not even a single car retail would have happened? But I think these are the truths. These are now the facts. We are all living with it. But when it comes to the potential, India is going to be a very, very strong potential market. And I think we have also seen the offshoots when they come to the economy. India is also the fastest to jump back, to spring back because of the resilience in our rural area, because of the resilience in our population, and also the fact that car now is becoming more of a necessity, especially in towns, rural areas where we have seen a lot of growth happening. And I think as we go forward, India will definitely be one of the biggest potential markets as far as automotive industry is concerned. And no doubt, barring one or two manufacturers, more than 20 manufacturers are now set up in India doing business, and I'm sure many others will also follow. So that's the.
No, I agree. I agree with you. I agree with you because we are looking at potential of India. Potential of India is of course huge, unlimited. If you go to 700 cars per thousand penetration in the country, then there will be every city will be clocked. Even now it is clocked because there are less numbers of cars. Even there is a pollution in the entire country because you can't move any city. If you get 700 cars per here like the American standard, then I don't know whether I have to walk to the office or to come by door because our infrastructure is so bad. Anyway, coming back to Martin. Because looking at the scenario, because earlier our common man's car Maruti is there, they sold very little last month, but they will obviously all of you are confident you'll pick up. But when you look at the luxury market, Mercedes, because Mercedes was a symbol in India. It was becoming a upper middle class car till last year. Now it seems there may be some kind of setback. Do you see a setback for luxury cars? Because your numbers are not very high anyway, but they're good numbers in terms of per capita income here. Do you think you will expand your market somewhere else because Ludhiana gets more cars, Surat gets more Mercedes than anywhere else? So what do you think? What is your strategy about luxury cars? Maybe in Germany also it may be shrinking.
We heard a lot from the colleagues about the potential of India, and that's even more so true for the luxury segment per se. We have very low penetration in the luxury segment. All brands together are around 1.2, 1.3% of the overall car market. And that potential is at least 10 or 15-fold compared to where we are today. And that combined with the added potential in the market itself should create a huge opportunity.
So last year, you see, even the luxury car demands in the country have come down because they were sold about 40,000 luxury cars in 2018. And 2019, you sold only 35,000 cars. And you were part of what was happening. So it was before the corona, there was a shrinking demand already, maybe for economic reasons. And I heard Shashank on various TV channels also, I heard everybody also. All of you are very hopeful building on the future. Rural demand will go up. That is, of course, a good thing. You have to keep your morale up. But the question is, after the loss of jobs, after the people moving from city to rural areas, after the salary cuts, retrenchment, how do you expect people to buy cars now? I don't understand. What is the logic behind it? Even the banks will not give the money.
We already heard that in the entry segment, we're getting quite rapidly back, and I see also some revitalization in the luxury segment. Specifically in the luxury segment, I think it is more deferred purchases than actually a loss of sale altogether, with attractive products and financial offerings, and still being strong on the network. I'm confident that we have a chance to come back in the next couple of months. But obviously, if you're concerned about your health, your safety, your family, if you have limitations in movement, then your need for a car, and for our customers, often it's another car on top to a car they already have, or multiple cars. They have a limited, so to say, need. The want is not going away, and that will come back, but it may take a couple of days and then or weeks even. And I'm very confident the more we get to some level of normalcy, and that would also include what I would like to call freedom of movement. Yeah, as soon as we have, that starts with international air travel, domestic air travels. It starts with intra-district travels. The more we can see an easing in this field, we will also see sentiments going up, and then also the need and the want even increasing of buying a car of any segment.
But the question is, people are not able to pay EMI from the previous car. Right. When the 30-40% retrenchment is there, 30-40% sale cut is there, and how you expect your dealer? You must be getting the dealer's feedback. I got some figures about the May what we have sold. If I look at Maruti picture alone, Maruti sold about 14,000 cars in May. That is the figure which has come out in the market. Is it correct, Shashank?
Yeah, the retail was about 30,000 was the retail. 14,000 was the whole.
14,000 as against 1.2 lakh in May last year, which was also a bad year as compared to 2018. So when the downtrend is starting, I'm just asking the question because where would you get the finance? Even the bank are already accused of giving favorable terms to the car loans rather than the house loans. Right. But you have some kind of a pressure on the banks also not to lend so easily when the paying capacity of the borrower is in doubt? I'm just looking at it. You may have the answer. I don't have.
But I think the picture is not so bleak. The past actually has been pretty good. 2010 onwards, so it's not as if manufacturers are hopeful only of the future. The past also has been good. Yes, I agree. Last year number was a little lower. The retail.
I'm basing on last year. Yeah.
So last year retail was a little lower for many reasons, including the cost of acquisition going up because of the transition from BS4 to BS6, some of the safety norms which were introduced, the insurance third-party insurance which was mandated by the Supreme Court, and so on and so forth. There were also, of course, disruptions in the sense of uncertainty because of the elections and so on and so forth. So going forward, and I think it's also unfair a little bit to compare May of this year with May of last year, because I think the situation as far as lockdown is an unprecedented one. And therefore, what we need to look at is the fundamentals in place for a quick recovery. So if you look at June figure, for example, if you see the bookings or if you see the retail or even the inquiries, they are roughly around 80-85% of the previous year. I would say it's a good bounce back, because it's a good bounce back, and I wouldn't say it's a V-shaped recovery, because people are debating whether it will be a V or it will be a Nike swoosh like a hockey stick, or whether the recovery will be a bathtub recovery where it falls down, stays low, and then goes up. So I'm not getting into that discussion. However, I think much of the demand which you see today in June, and June, remember, the figures would be much better than May, much better. So I think that gives you some hope, and even if it is because of the latent and you say the pent-up demand because of low sales in April and May, I think going forward, much will depend. I think Martin made out that comment very beautifully in the beginning itself. Much will depend on the fundamentals of economy and the sentiment of the consumer, which depends on how this COVID thing moves, which direction it moves. For example, if tomorrow you have a vaccine discovered, things may change immediately overnight. However, you may see a worsening if there is a second wave, for example, of a COVID wave, a second wave. You might see a dampening of.
No, you're right, Shashank. I'll ask Puneet.
Much of it is uncertain. I think. Yeah. So this is the year. Yeah. Puneet.
Puneet, the question, as everybody is saying, that depends on the economic sentiment, financial strong or whatnot. If you go by the figures and prediction, all economists talking about -5% growth in this country. When you talk about -5%, it means a lot for people who can buy cars. How you connect with -5% prediction with what you are saying that it will pick up? I'm a student of economics. I taught economics, but I have not understood this positivity. When the contraction is going down, GDP is going down, per capita availability of income in the hands of people going down, and even then car people will buy. Maybe there must be some mechanism. Shashank is the best marketing manager, both of you are there. You may be able to sell them. I don't know.
So, Prabhuji, I think your very observation in terms of the economy, and I think what fellow panelists have also mentioned is, yes, car buying is definitely a matter of, it's an offshoot of the economy. What we want to say is that, yes, last year we did see a degrowth happening because of various reasons, which Mr. Shashank already mentioned. This year, yes, in the initial part, we have seen our March month also going little washed away, because last 7 days, not much of any business happened. April month was a wash away. Even May month, to some extent, as you already rightly mentioned, you have some figures with you. We also, because it was the beginning of the opening of the lockdown, the unlock 1.0, as we call them, things started moving up. June is looking to be very better in terms of the inquiries. That means that the customers are there waiting to get hands on the car. Although the cars, maybe initially we would see the growth happening in the small cars or the middle segment, we may not see much happening in the cars which are above 10 lakh bracket. But what we want to say is that we are looking at the positive scenario wherein during the festive season, because see, June and July are the 2 months. After that, once the August month starts, obviously the festive season will come, and keeping our fingers crossed that if you are able to, arrest the spread of this COVID and people are starting to come out, obviously the festive season will see some demand resurgence coming, not only from the bigger towns, but also from the smaller towns. And that's where manufacturers who have, put already their plants in place and everything is already in place. Our vendors are now up and running. Our supply chain is starting to function. Our logistics have started to happen. Yes, in certain states, there are still 50% restrictions in terms of the manpower. But what we want to say is that because of these slowly economy opening up, travel starting to happen, government also looking at, supporting the MSME sector, the 20 lakh crore amount, which has been, announced by the government and the Honorable Finance Ministry will definitely start.
I hope that will not go into the car. I just, but it'll come back to the economy. I agree. Please let me stop it because everybody talking about it. Other thing which looks like one I have to ask, car market, whether it is price elastic or not, I don't know that. I have not done the comparison because your prices never go down. They may go up all the time. And with the new norms of pollution coming in, most of you have to spend money on improving enhancement of the product. Then if you spend so much money making it, Maruti has already done it, luckily, they may not have to invest that much money. But if all of you have to invest more in enhancement of quality, the car cost is likely to go up, isn't it? In that growing, if price elasticity is there higher. Market demand, obviously, as a student of economics say, when the prices go up, demand normally comes down. Mr. String, what would you say? Because your car is the most expensive.
I mean, of course, you are right. Yeah. On the other hand, we are not selling our cars via price, quite frankly. Yeah. I mean, if you sell a luxury brand, you have to sell the product and the brand itself. So, of course, there is a dependency on the price point, and a lower price helps customers to buy. But we try to convince the customers with the features of the cars, with what they aspire to be. And I think that is definitely our strategy, because you're quite right. I mean, costs are permanently going up. Inflation is an issue. Duties is an issue. Overall, it is very slim margins we actually have in terms of earning and being viable here. But as I said, the attempt should be to sell via the product and the product substance and not via the price.
Mr. Schwenk, just one question, yeah. Mr. Chawla, then please.
Yeah. Good.
I just wanted to know, does the Indian luxury car buyer, is he different? Does he behave differently? Does she behave differently from people in the rest of the world? Is there something unique to them?
I would say maybe one thing. The highest priority for an Indian customer is first investing investing into their own business. And then buying a car comes much later, coming luxury car. In other markets, the priorities are slightly different. There is more focus on putting money into a vehicle. Yes, you buy a house, but then a car comes very quickly already in the wants, so to say. Whilst in India, there's a lot of investment and saving. It's more a savings culture than we would have in many other countries.
I'm coming back to, again, price elasticity, because I'm looking at the figures that Maruti sales has got. Maruti, I saw the last year figure, Alto almost the number 1, followed by Desire. 2 lakh copies, just more than 2 lakh vehicles you sold. And second was 198,000. And now I see 1st May, Alto has become the second product, rather than it has sold less than Desire. Because you are pushing Desire, I can see the publicity happening in the newspaper. Is it related to that? But price elasticity is because the cheapest car, I would say, India drives Maruti. That's what is the Alto. Even in my own house, I got a Brezza and I got a Mercedes and a BMW. But Brezza is a must, and the van is also a must. So what I'm saying, India, they need some kind of a cheap cars, which can affordable card. At the moment, I don't think affordable cars are being made by other manufacturers. They are addressed to Puneet. Affordable car, which is in abroad, you can old car you can get for $1,000. With 25,000 per capita income dollars in America, people buy second cars flying on the road for $1,000. But here they are still getting, people are getting old cars for 50,000, 40,000, 50,000. But we are not producing enough cheaper cars. Is that right? So, affordable cars.
Okay. So actually, as 50% of the cars sold in India basically are the small segment. As we said, the compact segment, although in the compact also we have many segmentation. We have the low compact, then we have the mid compact. But we must also see that India is also a growing economy. India is a growing economy in terms of auto sector. last couple of years, and I think the fellow panelists would have already, they
Can you
said
hear
that.
him? I can't.
Last
Ah, now I
couple
can hear you.
Yeah.
yeah, last couple of years, the focus of government also has gone to ensure that even in a small car, you have all of the safety equipments put in place, which
Right.
obviously will lead to some increase, whether it is in terms of airbags, whether it is in terms of disc brakes, whether it is in terms of various other safety parameters. And not to mention that recently the government, nomenclature of ensuring that all cars also adhere to the BS6, which is one of the global best norms as far as the environmental pollution is concerned. So we all had to revert to the BS6 technology right from the 1st of April this year. Now, all these inputs, whether it's a small car or a big car, the cost of technology transfer which happens on a product definitely makes the product a little expensive compared to, but at the same time, the volumes also for these products are also increasing. So that's where if you see way back in 1998, we had a car which we sold for 3 lakh rupees. Today also, if you see the same car in a new avatar and also with lot of features, lot of safety things put up, is now being available at around 3.5 lakh. So Indian manufacturers have actually, done a lot in terms of ensuring that the ownership cost of the car in the early segment or the beginning segment should be maintained to the lowest possible level. And that's where all the leaders, everybody has started working on that. One must thing which also we not first is that in India, the first time car buyer also the population is very steadily increasing. This could be attributed to obviously growth in the personal income. Also, some of the developments which have happened. We have seen entrepreneurs coming in India. We have seen self-sustained individuals coming in India. We also seen a lot of FDI investment coming in India. Job market has opened up in the last couple of years. All this has also increased the number of first-time buyers, and that's where we see that these first-time buyers who used to actually buy a two-wheeler or a three-wheeler earlier are now investing in a passenger car or a passenger vehicle.
You are very right. First time buyer, because you will getting a lot of NRI who will come back from Gulf into Kerala. They will buy all the cars here now. You have a big market now in Kerala.
Also growth in the automobile sector.
And Swink will be happy because Kerala will buy Mercedes now. Not pots of money. But Kerala has a lot of money there. Come back. I think a lot of money they have come back. But a banker was telling me he's getting money in 3 months, which he has never got in the last 5 years together.
Wow.
That is what the banker told us when I spoke to him. But coming back to the situation that it seems that when the prices go up, as we expect, that you are not going to reduce the prices, will you? Each one of them.
They're not committing anything.
The question is whether we reduce prices.
You will give better discounts?
I think, if you ask me, really it would help us if we had a little bit of at least temporary relief on the tax burden. Yeah, that would give us a big yeah, because to reduce prices, obviously we all have to run our operations and still pay our employees and have all the fixed costs related to that. So at the end, we need sales to get out and remain profitable or become profitable again. And surely anything that would help in that element, the customers would then bottom line benefit the manufacturers and the employees of the manufacturers.
Other question, which is a very interesting thing which has happened in our lifetime now. I'm crossing 70, I'm 74. First time in India's history, I don't know what happened. I can't compare the prices of diesel and petrol in the rest of the countries. I don't remember, but Swink can update us. It's the first time that diesel in Delhi is selling more price than the petrol. Most of car manufacturers from Mahindra and Mahindra to everybody, I saw their priority was earlier diesel-oriented manufacturing. This diesel becoming more expensive. Even Maruti had more petrol, I think. The proportion of motor car with petrol is much more than the diesel one. So do you think that even in Mercedes also people used to buy more diesel cars than the petrol? So I prefer petrol car. That's a different issue. But this diesel becoming more expensive, what is the policy behind it? Why it has been done, I really don't know. But this government has done it. That is a major change. Will it change the production schedule of the car manufacturers as well or not?
I'm not sure you addressed that to me, the question. I mean, for sure, we believe that diesel is a very strong proposition, specifically in the larger car segment. Because there the diesel, the fuel price, and in most of the areas in the country, it's still a substantial differential, but also the fuel usage. You need far less fuel than on a diesel engine. And that is a definite benefit on the CO2 footprint of every vehicle. If you look into the overall, say, emissions, a petrol engine and a diesel engine, at least in our generations of vehicles, are very close. But there is at least 20-25% advantage on the consumption. And that is also then a CO2 advantage on the diesel vehicle. And that's why we will continue to have, specifically in the mid and large segment, a very large portion of diesel. I see, obviously, and the colleagues are probably much better attuned to explain that, but we also see that in our entry segments that there is also a growing interest in petrol engines.
Puneet, what is your answer to it? Because we have lots of diesel cars, and
Yes.
Mahindra is the largest manufacturer of diesel vehicles, but I don't know.
But we are very happy to say that Hyundai has always maintained that there is a sizable population which still wants to get their hand on that as a drive to excite. And I think the car which can give you excitement and the power is something which a diesel power plant can give you. In the last year, when we transited from the BS4 to BS6, we ensured that all our products which were available in the BS4 diesel necessarily were transformed into the BS6 diesel. In fact, today when you are asking this question, I'm very happy to share that today we also launched the BS6 version of our Elantra, which is one of the most flagship, sedan as far as our segment is concerned. Because we are very upbeat as far as the consumers' interest in the diesel is concerned, especially when India is obsessed by their love for SUVs. I think SUV will be an area where, we would see people still adopting diesel much better than that of the petrol. Because the diesel benefit is one, obviously technical reasons, CO2 emission, all that, but also the return as far as the diesel, cost efficiency is there in terms of the average, or I would say per kilometer, what you get from the diesel is better, 20% almost better than that of a petrol product. Now,
before the price equity, not now.
Yeah, but since the efficiency of the diesel car is there, and now with the BS6 coming up, we can always say that India has one of the best technologies, which even in places like Europe, etc., people are enjoying diesel product. So we have the best.
Let me ask very specific. Diesel prices going up and going more than petrol will not affect the demand for diesel-driven cars?
No, I am not saying it will. It will definitely. There will be some people, the fence sitters, who may shift, but still people who are investing.
But diesel is more polluting also, na? People say perception that diesel is more polluting.
No. Actually,
maintenance cost is higher in terms of diesel-driven cars.
But with the BS6 technology coming up, because that's why government brought the BS6 now, because they wanted it to be as clean as the fuel. And we have the diesel plants running, diesel power plants doing their duty all over the world. And that's where, including our Creta, the Venue, all the products, we have already equipped them with the BS6 plant.
Martin, what about you? You feel the diesel cars will be less in demand now?
Pardon?
I'm asking Martin.
No, I would concur with what was just said by Puneet. I think we will have always customers who have a strong wish to, they like the characteristics of a diesel engine, specifically on the SUV. They like the longevity. They like also the fuel consumption. So, but of course, if petrol price would be cheaper than diesel, you would see, specifically in more price sensitive segments, you will see more customers asking for and then making a new, potentially new decision. But I wouldn't see a big swing. As I said before, we see some trend in the entry segment, which is which goes into the direction of higher petrol shares. But overall, specifically in SUVs and larger cars, that is not what we see at the moment. Regulation can always change that, but by customer want and customer demand is not indicating that at the moment.
May I request?
Let me complete one.
Sure.
Let me complete one question.
Sure.
So, Martin, I'm asking you one question because I'm on the concluding 10-15 minutes you got. You see, in 2019, you sold about 13,800 cars. That's the figure available on the website. It may be less or more. And 2018, you sold about 15,550 cars. And what is your expectation 2020 now?
My expectation that it will be tough to hit what we sold last year, quite frankly, because I mean, compared to that, we're losing quite a few months of sales. and it will technically not be possible. So you can do your own equations there, but it will be very tough to come back to even what we saw last year, and it won't be possible to get to what we had in the year before just because of the lack of opportunity to sell.
What is the contraction you're expecting? You must have done internal assessment. 40%, 30%, economy is going down by 5% according to officials.
Honestly, it's very difficult to tell at this point in time. It all depends on the next couple of weeks, I would say. Obviously, we have lost, I would say, 3 months of sales. Yeah?
3 months you already lost.
That equates to basically 25%. Yeah, I mean, that's very simple calculation. If you take 3 months out, yeah, out of 12. Yeah, but now it depends on how we come back and what then the result will be. If it is possible to have more movement, if it's possible to contain the pandemic and get a better feeling so that we then the damage can be limited. But obviously, if we get further lockdowns, and I think that's probably our biggest concern at the moment, that the situation gets aggravated again, and we see, like we see in Chennai, for example, now, or in other areas, that it gets jittery again, and we might get restrictions again. That will certainly disturb the confidence. And also create an additional turbulence, and we will eventually see a few more losses.
I was thinking about that diesel question you asked. In the previous
that's right. That's why I came back to you immediately.
You is probably contrarian to what the other colleagues are saying. And I think the data seems to indicate a different view, which the consumers are taking. If you see 6-7 years back, the diesel percentage in the industry was about 60%. The gap,
yes.
Prabhuji, the gap between 1 liter of diesel and 1 liter was petrol was 32 rupees in May 2012. It has come down to 24, then 17, then today, diesel is more expensive than petrol. I think Martin said it's not the case across the country. Across the country, the difference is about 5 rupees still. There are states like Maharashtra, where there is a 8 rupee difference, but then there are states like Pondicherry or Gujarat or Goa and Chhattisgarh, etc., where the gap is less than 2 rupees. So the response has been that the percentage of diesel sale in the industry has been coming down drastically. From 58%, last year it came down to less than 28. Last quarter of last year was about 17%. In small cars, I think Martin said that, in small cars it is less than 5%. So going forward, I don't see an economic logic for anybody buying a diesel car, at least a small diesel car. And the larger
segment.
Yeah. And in fact, you remember the maintenance, there is, you brought it out very directly, Prabhuji, when you said, why would anybody, with the same price, why would anybody buy a diesel car, especially when the diesel BS6 vehicle is 1.5 lakh more expensive than petrol? So there is no reason you would probably have to drive 2.5 lakh kilometers to recover that cost. For even if you assume a 20% fuel efficiency difference. So on the larger cars, I can still understand some percentage of diesel in larger SUVs or in larger vehicles, as Martin said. But in the smaller cars, there's absolutely no economic logic. And the construct of the Indian industry, coming to that question of that first-time buyer, which Puneetji mentioned, is about value. So when you talk about prices, about this thing, we are looking at how, because Indian consumer, even with all respect to Martin, even the top-end consumer is a very value conscious. Of course, it's a value different for different. And India is a different market in the sense 47% of the buyers are first-time buyers, unlike US or Japan, which is less than 5%.
I'll ask one question.
This makes it a very...
Are you saying, if I conclude it there with you, are you saying the demand for diesel-driven vehicles will come down further?
It has come down already, as you can see.
It will come down further, I said. It will go further down after the price.
Absolutely.
Do you agree with it?
So actually, I'll give you, it's not that the demand for diesel suddenly has come down. See, Mr. Shashank is right. When we look at...
I said further. My question was further.
Because when we see the price differentiation between petrol and diesel, which I think very well articulated, we have seen that already the diesel was becoming a little expensive fuel from 32 rupees to 20 rupees, then to 15 rupees, then 10 rupees. Last year, it was by and large around 8 to 10 rupees. So the people who had already made their decisions, and then the BS6 came into being. So the people who had already decided, the fence sitters have already changed their mindset. Whatever they wanted to decide based on their own calculations, based on the economic parameters, they have already taken the decision, and they have either invested in the petrol. But yes, the people who would love to drive a car, and I can give you some statistics. In the month of March, we launched the all-new Creta. Today, we are very happy to share that still 55 to 60% of the cars which are sold are all diesel cars. We have a petrol power plant. We have a turbo in Creta in petrol, but still diesel is one of the hot favorites. So what I'm saying is it also depends upon the demographics of the customer. And yes, people who are above that 10 lakh kind of a bracket, where the cost differentiation doesn't make much difference to them, because mostly it is all financed. For them, that fun to drive is the feeling which cannot be,
because you are repeating this fun to drive. That has been your theme. I think Hyundai theme should be fun to drive. That means Hyundai is the car to fun to drive. And he's talking about value added. And you would like to conclude now by asking Mr. Singh also. What do you think? Diesel car demand?
I have already taken a call. Only think people who have decided now they will invest in the diesel.
Okay.
Because all those market dynamics have already changed.
Mr. Martin, tell us whether your diesel car demand is going up or going down. What kind of inquiries are you getting?
I mentioned already. We are very stable in the larger segment, and we see in the entry segment a slight shift to petrol engines. But what we also see as customers are getting more eco-friendly and more concerned about sustainability. And that is definitely something which brings then the question of carbon footprint to the forefront. And we see in our segment that obviously electrification is an answer to that, but one answer is also more efficient engines. And it's still very hard to beat a diesel engine in terms of efficiency. So when you look at the overall thing, we see also a lot of customers being more concerned. We heard earlier about health and hygiene, but also about sustainability of the planet itself. That is maybe in this current situation, not the what comes immediately at mind, but that is definitely a trend we see. And therefore, I would still maintain we will have a reasonable strong footprint in the diesel, but we will see some shift in the entry level towards more petrol.
I'll ask, I got a question from Bangalore. The person is saying that you spoke about eco-friendly car. Somebody is asking that EV cars only around 3,600 cars during 1920. You are selling millions of cars, lakhs of cars, and only 3,600 EV electronic cars were sold. It means the manufacturers have no interest or demand is less.
I mean, for electrification, it is.
Mr. Krishnan Kumar from Bangalore asking a very fundamental question. He sent me just now. I saw it. What about Maruti? Is making e-cars, I think?
No, we are, as you know, testing some EVs. But remember, Prabhuji, even if you look at globally, less than 2% car sales are EVs. And one of the main reasons, especially in India, one of the main reasons is that the technology, the battery technology which is available today is leads to a very high price. The cost of acquisition of EV is very high, especially countries like India. It's probably the demand itself will be less. Second is the infrastructure for charging is another big bottleneck. And third, the range anxiety which consumers have in the absence of that infrastructure. I think that's one of the main reasons why in most countries, except probably Norway and Netherlands, maybe except most other countries, you will start. The answer, I think, when we look at, when people talk about sustainability, is to look at more fuel efficient vehicles, including hybrid vehicles and CNG vehicles, both of which I believe are going to be the solution which India will ultimately seek. It will be on hybrid and CNG, and later on, maybe at a later stage, maybe they shift to EV. But I think we need to get a mix of technologies.
No, the question which is arising, when you're talking about technology, it means Government of India, Nitin Gadkari never forgets to talk about electronic vehicles all the time. Whenever he gives a speech, he speaks about this 5 times. So many concessions have been given by all of them to you. Even then you're saying India is not ready for EV. The rest of the world is not ready for it. Yes. It is fashionable to talk about e-vehicles, that it is not desirable to have an e-vehicle. This is what you're saying?
Yes, and Prabhuji, I'm not just saying, it's not your opinion. I'm just giving you the facts. If you look at the expected vehicle production in India from 2020 to 2030, it's about 70 million at a CAGR about 6.5, out of which only 7% is expected to be EVs, which means 65 million cars would be ICE engines. What do you do with these vehicles? Obviously, you need to have more fuel efficient, hybrid or CNG. Those are the answers for those 65 million cars till we have a robust strategy for EV vehicles.
So e-vehicle remains basically fashion statement. No? That's all. It is like Abu Jani or some Sabasai Mukherjee kind of vehicle.
That, but it's tough. Yeah. At the moment, it's tough.
It is tough. That is what it is.
For the e-vehicle, I would just like to say the complete ecosystem which has to come into. So it has to be all stakeholders, whether it's the consumers, whether it's the manufacturer, whether it's the government. Unless and until all three stakeholders don't come together, I think e-vehicles, because it's a technology, it's a very good technology. We already launched our first e-vehicle last year. We have seen people really appreciating that SUV, the Kona, which we launched. But only thing is, I think logistics, the infrastructure, and also the manufacturing of the e-batteries in India will definitely bring the cost of ownership of the electric vehicle down. And that's where people who are into that end, who are innovative, who want to be seen upon in the society, they would love to invest in an EV vehicle.
Thank you. Mr. Gugnani, may I request you to come in and, there were some questions that you wanted to ask the panelists?
First of all, very warm good afternoon to all the panelists. My first question was taken away by Mr. Prabhu Chawla about the focus about the electric. So I'll go to the next question to Mr. Shashank. Making a car cheaper today would be more difficult in this situation where Mr. Puneet said that 6 years back they used to sell a car for 3 lakhs and today again the same car with a new avatar is at 3.5. So is it so that we can make the perception more cheaper with the consumers by making
good question
scheme and getting the price and the EMIs down with interest and the car's condition with warranties going up to 7-8 years, so that the market will come back because the car would be required after the epidemic. Shashank sir.
Yes, absolutely. Very good observation. One of the things is that with the increased push, the mandate by the government regarding the requirement, the mandatory requirement for emission and for safety, it is difficult for anybody to bring the costs down and later the prices down from the current levels. It can only go up. So yes, having financing schemes which actually makes it easier for the consumers to, in terms of lower EMIs or more flexible EMIs. This is something which is very important, especially for the first-time buyer and also to the lower end of the segments. And we do find that the bounce back which we saw in Maruti Suzuki in the H2 of last year. Remember, our Q3 was actually higher than the previous year. Then it is largely because we could have finance schemes which could make the consumers look at it. It's not that we decrease prices; we actually increase prices in response to the new norms for emission and safety. Yes, you are very right. We need to, and also I always come back and say that consumers in India are very value conscious. It doesn't mean that we have to harp on price. We have to show him value, and that is what we are trying to do at Maruti Suzuki. Fortunately, even at the lower end, the consumers do look at in our products, and that's one of the reasons why we have been able to be successful in this segment as well.
Thank you. Very, very clear. What?
Mr. Gugnani, we can't hear you very well.
Mr. Gugnani, your voice is...
Puneetji, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
My question to you is, as the difficult times and a lot of investments are required in the showroom, and there has been reduction of stocks, are the showrooms be going to smaller and more digitalized with less display? Will that be the future, or it will continue the similar way it's going on big spanky showrooms?
So I think very, very good question. What I would like to say is that already we know that in India, the availability of a retail space is becoming a challenge, especially in the bigger cities. So yes, going forward, as we say, the formats of these showrooms will definitely change what they have currently been. At the same time, I think in the beginning we said that today the consumer is basically researching on the worldwide platform. He is researching online. He is expecting more of a digital support from the manufacturers, right from the purpose of looking at the product, its features, its colors, and even to the convenience of a test drive at the convenience of his or her place at their own area. I think these are some of the interventions which all manufacturers have already started to take. Case in example, recently we have announced Click to Buy, a very, very innovative platform, which over the last few months has already seen a footfall of more than 7 million people coming, 700,000 people coming and, exercising their right to understand the product, not only in terms of understanding the product, but also applying for a finance online, applying for requesting for test drive online, and at the same time requesting for the delivery of the car at the comfort of their home itself. Now, these are some of the investments which manufacturers have made, and I'm sure many other manufacturers will follow suit so that they can really reduce the cost as far as the operations and dealerships are concerned. And also what we want to share over here is that with the coming up of the new technologies, it is very easy for the consumer also to access knowledge at the press of a button. Today, with the speeds coming of 4G, and also we are looking at into 5G, I think consumers and manufacturers also will be very easy for them to marry the product as well as the experience on the digital platform.
Puneet, I think that I have understood, because we have to conclude now, Puneet. You are basically saying the architecture of showroom will definitely undergo changes some kind of, because looking at the cost of it, as he's asking, Punani is asking you. But I think a very last question which I'm going to raise.
We have a good scrap policy. The future again is like you have took away you have asked about the electrical change after BS6, and government is putting a lot of stress on BS6. And I would like to understand, would a firm scrap policy would help the market demand to grow very fast?
I think it is an industry consensus that scrap policy will have two beneficiaries. The one is the environment, and the other one is the car sales itself. Yeah, so it will certainly for the industry be a support, and it was talked about it for a long time. So I still would hope it's imminent. It will certainly not save the industry, so to say, but it might be a suitable support in these times.
I'll ask the last question now, because you're talking about finance. Don't you think it is a good idea at the moment? Because I feel as a personal consumer of car, I've bought cars, post-sale expenses are very high. Insurance cost is very high. And Mr. Swenk, I'm telling you, your cost of servicing is very high. If you buy a Mercedes, obviously you have to keep at least 20,000 rupees a month aside for servicing it. Your parts are very expensive. Every car except Maruti, which is cheap at servicing station when you go there. But all other cars, in terms of insurance, is going up because private insurance parties have come up. Servicing charges are going up. The person thinks twice, okay, I'm paying 3 lakh, 4 lakh, or 25 lakh, or 40 lakh for Mercedes, or 50 lakh, or 70 lakh for whatever car. So I end up paying a cumulative expenses of insurance plus that, which is almost becomes 10% of the cost of the vehicle. Is that the scope for reducing these expenses?
I mean, if you address it to me, for sure.
Because you're the most expensive.
Cost of ownership is very important to the customers. And I think that is an area we are working on. Everyone works on that. We know that is a main concern. I think one element to that is for sure to have service packages which are suited to take care to some extent of the concern. I mean, we will never be able to compete with the Maruti pricing. That is not possible based on the cost of our parts and the volumes underlying. But the concern is clear, and it's also something which is, a known strategy in the industry, that we need to be not only be present where the customers are. That's for the luxury manufacturers definitely a target by itself, that you even can get maintenance in the area you live. And on top of that, total cost of ownership is definitely one of our strategies. And we look a lot of that. On the one hand, it's service packages. On the other hand, for example, it's improving efficiency in workshops, which enables then the dealers also to be at a better price point.
Yeah, Kaveri.
Yes, thank you, gentlemen. It was, I think, a very exciting ride, and I think India's in very safe hands when it comes to who's driving it. And we're certainly not, all of you are not asleep at the wheel. It's good to know. And thank you, Mr. Gugnani. Thank you, Mr. Schwenk. Thank you, Mr. Srivastav. Thank you, Mr. Anand. Thank you, Mr. Chawla. It was a very exciting discussion.
Good,
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you very
Good
much.
to notice the optimism everywhere. Good.
Yes.